So we're going to be finishing off the last stage of our self-portrait project this week, and it might be very different for us how we all choose to do this. So I'm going to use watercolours, and I can show you a few watercolour techniques that you can practice. If you don't have watercolours at home, you can do this with absolutely anything you want. So you can use colouring pencils, pens, paint, anything you want to make your portrait bright and colourful and vibrant, just like Frida Kahlo's. Now I've got my things to do my colouring, and I've also got a mirror that I'm going to use to colour my self-portrait, because I want to look at what colours my face and my hair are, rather than just thinking, oh, I know my skin is pink, or oh, I know my skin is brown. I want to look at it closely to see what different shades I can spot. When I look in my mirror, I can see that most of the skin on my face is a very similar colour. It's a slightly yellowish, pale peachy colour. So that's what I'm going to try and mix now. So I'm going to use lots of water. To mix this, I'm going to use some yellow. I'm going to use a little bit of pink, a little bit of red, sorry, because yellow and red together creates an orangey colour, and that already is a good start if you're trying to mix a peach. Now, to make it a little bit less bright orange, I'm also going to put just a tiny bit of brown in there, just to stop it being quite so bright. And then to make it paler, I'm going to use lots more water. Now, a really good trick when we're doing watercolour painting, because you can build up lots of layers with it, is to start with a really pale colour, and then we can put darker colours over the top. Because what you can't do is paint down a dark colour and try and make it lighter. It's not going to work very easily. So I'm just going to do my whole face this pale peachy colour. So now that I've got my skin all the same colour, I'm going to have another look in the mirror and see if there are any other different shades I can see. Now I can see that my nose and my chin are a little bit pinker. So I'm going to mix a pinkier shade of peach. So I've got my yellow, got a bit of my red, add a bit of my brown so it's not too bright. And then I'm going to look closely. Where can I see this shade on my body? So I can see a little bit of this on my chin, and I can see a little bit of this on my cheeks. I'm going to blend it in a little bit. Now I'm going to have a little look in the mirror and see if I can spot any parts of my face that are darker than the other parts, so there's a bit more shadow going on. So I'm going to add a lot more brown into my pink, because that gets it a lot closer to the colour that I can see. There we go. So I can see just under my eyes, it's a bit darker. I can see particularly down this side of my nose. And this part of my face at the moment, there's a lot of shadow in there. Now I can particularly see that down one side of my neck it's a lot darker, because it's sort of hiding behind my hair, and there's a lot of shadow under my chin. So once again, I'm going to look closely at exactly what colours I can see in my hair. I mean my hair is brown, but I don't just want to use the brown colour. I want to make sure it's exactly the same brown as mine. I'm going to use a tiny little bit of dark blue to make my brown darker and not quite as warm. And then that's looking a lot closer now. It's the colour of my hair. I'm going to try really carefully to go around the edges of my flower crown here, so that that's not getting covered up. And it's a bit easier to paint here. Just use big flowing strokes. If you're painting, you can follow the way that the hair falls with your strokes and use those lines to create a bit of texture. Now that I've done my hair colour, I'm just going over the top with some thinner strokes in a darker shade to really get that texture of hair. Okay, so once you've finished your hair and your skin, so I've also gone through and I've done my eyebrows and I've added the colour into my eyes and lips, we're going to get ready to do the background. Now this is really exciting because we can do this any colours that we want. So I'm going to use lots of different shades of greens with some turquoises and some blues mixed in there, but you can choose your favourite colours so that it really reflects the things that you love. So I've mixed up a nice dark green that I can use to paint some of these leaves. And because I'm covering a larger area at a time now, I'm using a slightly bigger brush to make that a little bit quicker. There we go. And I'm carefully going around the edges of things that I want to be different colours. Now because these leaves are all still quite wet, I can pick up a much darker green and I can drip that on. And it should create some nice effects. So I'm going to see if I can drip in some darker green spots. And can you see they're starting to soak outwards, bleed? I'm mixing quite a pale bluey turquoise to do these palm leaves, these fern leaves here. And I'm going to do a bit of the same technique that I've done earlier. It's called wet on wet because you're using wet paint on top of a page that's already wet. So I'm going to have a darker turquoisey colour and I'm just going to let that bleed out through the centre of my leaf. You can see it slowly spreading out. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going until I've filled in my whole background with all of these different colours. So once you've finished your whole background and you've absolutely filled it up so there are no tiny little gaps anywhere, you can choose what colours you'd like to use for any head decoration that you might have on. Now because I've got lots of blues, yellows, greens in my background, I want to go for some completely different colours in my flower crown so they really stand out. So I'm going to go for some peachy colours, some red colours, maybe even some purples so that it looks really different. It's also a lot easier if you've still got the colour on your paintbrush to do everything that's that colour all at once. So I'm doing all three of these roses at once before I rinse my paintbrush ready to do my next colour. Got my peachy pink. Now I'm going to, and then I can add in some little shadows around the petals that I've got here. Okay, there we go. If you've made something too dark, then while it's wet you can always use a tissue to take out a little bit of that colour. So I'm going to keep going until I've done my whole flower crown painted, and I'm also going to paint my jumper with any colours I want. So I'm going to see how it looks once I've finished my flower crown and then choose my colours. Once you've done that, you will have your finished self-portrait with your beautiful detailed background and your colourful expression of all of the things you love and the person that you are.